PBIS does work. You're just not using it right.
Walk, walk in, chest great, we don't play. Staff talk sharp like a quiz on a Monday. Whiteboard wars, yeah, we grade all day. If you can't take that heat, stay out the hallway. Hey, this is the staff room. Say it loud, say it loud. The staff room.
Let's get into it.
Welcome back to the staff room, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Matos. I'm a 16-year educator and author of how school leaders motivate teachers in real classrooms. If you think that PBIS is effective in your schools, let me know in the comments. I really want to engage with some of you and get a better understanding of how you feel. I personally believe that PBIS is very effective. I believe that there's not enough value placed on education anymore. I believe that policymakers are now placing the accountability into the laps of the teachers and the site-based administrators, and holding them accountable for things they just cannot control. If you think that your school is able to place regular consequences on kids and not get pushback from the district or the district professionals, you're sadly mistaken. They do not want to see it. They do not want to see paper trails of referrals. They feel like those things aren't effective, and we all know that that's just not the case. If we have a person that's poisoning our classroom culture, that person needs to be removed. So just to be upfront, I support the proper consequences in school. I also support the proper accountability. Parents, I hate to say it, but if your child is coming into school and completely disrespecting teachers and causing absolute chaos in school, the only person that could teach that child is to restructure the way they feel like behaving in school is you. It's not going to be a teacher. Every now and then you might hit one that could reach them, or maybe even two that may be able to reach them, but that's your responsibility at that point. PBIS is something that's going to motivate them in some way, shape, or form, but there's some things that it depends on. Okay. There is some research that's been released on PBIS, but most of it is just things that people are posting, and most of these people are angry parents and angry teachers. Today we're going to take a look at a video from Dr. Russell Barkley. He is a proponent of PBIS style reinforcement, specifically in neurodivergent students such as ADHD, an autism spectrum, and maybe ODD kids. He brings the science to the forefront, and he also gives it to us in a very, very plain way. PBIS style reinforcement or behavioral management is effective, but we're going to go through after the video some of the things that need to be consistent for PBIS to be effective. Let's listen to Dr. Russell.
Motivation is external. We already talked about this, which means I am going to have something in it for you if you are going to persist. So stop whining, stop complaining why you have to offer something for this child to work. The reason you don't offer it to other children is they have internal motivation. ADHD children do not. So don't worry that by paying them tokens for doing their reading or their assignments, you're somehow going to pervert a sense of doing things for their own reward or value. Being a good citizen.
So I want to point out that what he's talking about is basically using extrinsic motivation and how it compromises intrinsic motivation, or how we should be promoting solely intrinsically motivated processes, or how we should be promoting intrinsically motivating practices.
Citizen for the sake of being a good citizen. That is not going to work for ADHD. The ADHD child is Donald Trump incarnate, and there better be a deal. And if there is no deal, it ain't getting done.
I like the way he talks, because a lot of times we like to code switch, especially when you get into them higher level discussions. You know, me myself, I hate trying to code switch. I'd rather just be myself. And he really gives it to the listener in a way that is accepted. He's speaking to a group of leaders and educators. I think ADHD is important here because right now the main thing that's being thrown around is ADHD is the main contributor to poor behavior in the class. And I could tell you right now, if I took 10 kids that are struggling in class, the teacher's going to recommend that 8 of those 10 have ADHD. And it's just because they don't understand that they're doing this. It's an implicit bias. And I feel that it's, as of right now, it's their only method of reasoning. A lot of people can't just admit that, listen, I don't know why the kid's not behaving. I don't know why this is happening. It must be something wrong with that person. I can promise you that that's not the case. I can promise you in many of the instances they're just being kids, and teachers have trouble because parents have trouble, and parents are just afraid to admit it, or they've created iPad kids where they just say, go get on your iPad, and that's just enough to leave them alone.
So to borrow a phrase from Stephen Covey, please think win-win. A win for them, not just a win for you. And that means you are going to have to drop in the points, the tokens, the privileges, the sex, the drugs, the money, and the car. My medication's wearing off, I think you can see.
Okay. So Dr. Russell is pointing out that reinforcing students by creating systems that utilize token economies, point systems, prizes is not a bad thing. In fact, the reason why PBIS doesn't work in this instance is because people don't understand that when you utilize these methods, you're creating consequences. So in a place where you have no consequences, all a teacher can do is control what they can control. So myself personally, when I first started teaching and I realized that behaviors was a primary a part of the practice, and a part of the practice that they don't teach you, I created at least 3 ways to have consequences within my classroom without having to rely on administration. That's why PBIS works. Okay. In order to get PBIS to work, you need 3 things. All right. You need demand. Okay. The reinforcement has to meet the, I guess, the requirements of the student that you're trying to reinforce. A lot of old school teachers, you guys sit there and say, they're not going to like this, they're not going to like that. One thing I can tell you right now, the kids love food. It's the easiest way to go. I can't tell you, even if I was, back when I first started teaching, I'm teaching younger grades. Even if I would give them 1 Skittle, a coworker of mine told me once, you'd be surprised what kids would do for 1 Skittle. Now, this is obviously in the younger grades, but demand is key. Another thing that I did within the school that I was at is I created rooms, reinforcement rooms. There's also data that backs this approach up. I created a complete gaming room and then a schedule where when kids met criteria, or if I had behavior kids that are struggling, I put them on a system that rewards them with I guess like a token economy, and then they could purchase their way into the gaming room. The demand met what I was asking of them, and it works every time. What's the consequence? Well, guess what? The consequence is when Johnny and Timmy are friends and they're in opposite classes and they get to come to the room, and Johnny gets to come to the room and Timmy doesn't get to come, Timmy is now getting a consequence. That's the consequence. So demand is huge, and it works when you create consequences with the items that you're going to use to reinforce kids. The next thing is consistency. You cannot be afraid to be consistent with your expectations. As long as you've taught the expectations, then you can be consistent in how you reinforce them. It's just not going to work if you are reinforcing some days for, I don't know, bringing in your homework, which is another conversation that I would like to have at some point, is homework. But if I'm going to reinforce on Monday but not reinforce on Tuesday, Inconsistency is going to break down the system. Also, if the system says that Timmy can't miss, or Timmy can't miss any homework assignments if he wants to make it to the game room, but you allow him to miss a homework assignment just because you don't feel like dealing with the situation, and you allow him to go to the game room, you break down the system. Okay? So, Dr. Matos, what happens when the systems break down? Well, this is the last part that you need for a PBIS system to be successful. You need support. Leaders, get over it. Get over it. You have to support your teachers. If that means you have to move around the campus on a regular basis, if you have to make yourself known, if you have to become familiar with the students, then that's what you have to do. But when a teacher upholds an expectation that they have been reinforcing and they've been fair about, it's not fair for the other kids, you have to be available to support them. That's your job. The worst thing you could possibly do is go up to a teacher and say, well, have you reached out to the parents yet? I'll be honest with you, teachers don't feel like doing that anymore. And I don't think they really have to. They have enough on their plate. They have to teach kids where 20 or 30% of them really don't feel like they need to even be in school, because their parents have sat there and told them, well, you don't have to listen to your teachers. Don't believe me? I promise you. I've heard it from parents' mouths. It's just what they do. So leaders, you have to support these expectations. Not only do you have to support them in the classroom, you have to support them outside of the classroom. If we are going to be a PBIS school, PBIS has to run throughout your entire campus. All teachers have to buy in. All teachers have to contribute. All teachers have to reinforce. One of the things that I'm currently working on is an accountability piece for teachers. If you're going to sit here and tell me that PBIS style reinforcement is not working, I need to know that you're using it. Well, how? Well, you can have methods of tracking whether or not the teacher is reinforcing it. For example, I had a teacher that was telling me that reinforcing a child was not working for a child that was sleeping in her class. So when I asked that teacher if she was actually reinforcing, or where was the documentation to show me where this child was missing so we can work on those parts, I never gave it to him. Consistency, support, leadership should have stepped in at that point. My power, although I am a part of leadership, my power does not go as far as a principal or assistant principal's power. At that point, they should have been meeting with that person and saying, listen, you're going to use it at this point because it's an expectation. It's part of what we do at this school. Buy-in is a big thing too. And buy-in's always going to be difficult. But buy-in will come when the school culture demands it. That's a part of leadership. Well, how does that work? It's simple. You create places where pushback is welcomed, right? In the middle of a meeting, in the middle of a staff meeting, when I'm trying to train my staff, getting into a full-fledged argument with a teacher is inappropriate. Instead, I invite them after to talk to me in my office, sitting in front of me, one-on-one, where we can work out a better way to make the execution of this expectation a lot easier for them. Welcome all pushback. What you want is a staff full of teachers that are informed enough to push back. If you had a bunch of teachers that are just going to say yes, I promise you, your small mistake is going to create a snowball effect, because you don't have teachers that are informed and feel comfortable enough to tell you when you've made a mistake. Leadership's just not perfect. So how do we fix this? Well, PBIS, simple. Buy into it, be consistent, make sure that the juice is worth the squeeze. Principals, make sure you have systems put in place to check accountability, make sure everybody is using the system, make sure everybody believes in the system. And when the one or two kids pops up that are destroying your classroom culture, you got to pull them. That's just the way it works. Use PBIS, ladies and gentlemen. It works just as much as you want it to work.
Walk in, chest great, we don't play.